Welcome, everybody. Welcome to an exciting annual general meeting. My name is Jeremy McCool. If we don't have the pleasure of knowing each other, I'm the founder and CEO of HEVO. I'm joined today by these wonderful panelists, friends, colleagues. I'm going to do an introduction. I have here with me John Holland, who supports our finance operations, we'll say commercial related agreements and things of that nature as well. We have Bob Skinner, who has been supporting all of our efforts around commercial business related matters, business development related matters, and Bob Reminar, who has been on our board now and serving on our board for the past year. Unfortunately, we will not have our other board member, Yifan Tong, on this call. He is traveling abroad and the timing just didn't work. So if you don't mind, gentlemen, we'll start with you, John, for just a second. Then we'll go to Bob Reminar, and then I should say Bob Skinner, and then we'll go to Bob Reminar. So, John, if you don't mind, just a quick introduction to yourself. Thank you.
My name is John Holland. Been with the company for about 2 years now. I've been in the EV sector for over 12, helped scale up a couple of companies that have exited to Schneider Electric. I'm involved in everything electric, from wireless to electric boats, electric motorcycles, electric cars, obviously, charging, software. And as I told Jeremy a couple of years ago, and I probably might have heard on it prior calls, the future is autonomous vehicles, future is autonomous fleets. If you have that, you have to have wireless. You cannot have a human involved. So that is why I've been leaning into HEVO to invest in the future of for this sector.
Yeah, I'm Bob Skinner, Detroit native, automotive, various automotive enterprises all my life. Been in the EV charging infrastructure business for several years and working with HEVO for the last year. Again, as John said, just seeing the explosion of robo-taxis and electric fleets, it's an absolute no-brainer that wireless charging has got to be part of that future, and so excited about all the opportunities ahead.
Great. Bob Reminar.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you are. Bob Reminar. I'm sort of the old auto guy on the team. History of General Motors, Delphi, ran a couple of multi-billion-dollar automotive suppliers. I currently serve on four and a half boards, automotive related, both international and domestic, 2 publicly traded, 2 not, and 1 SPAC. But I sort of bring the automotive perspective. I'm still wired into OEMs very much. And look, I love this technology. Jeremy talked me into joining this board against my better judgment, but I'm glad I did. I love the wireless technology, and frankly, I want it in my garage, not for my EV. I want it for my plug-in hybrid EV because, as I tell Jeremy, every time I pull in my garage, I plug in my hybrid, whereas my EV, I only plug in once a week. So this is a great technology. We're making headway, and I'm happy to be here.
Just so everybody's clear, we are not that half board member leadership for Bob Reminar. It's not the half seat for HEVO. All right, so let's dig in. Thanks a lot for that, gentlemen. We've got an exciting one. As I stated, there's a lot of good detail to go through today, and I'm going to bring up our presentation for the day just a moment here. Right. You guys can see it on your side, right?
Yes.
Okay, so here we go. And at any point in time, gentlemen, as we're going through this, obviously there might be some people here that might ask questions as we're going. If you don't mind answering those as we move along, I'm going to pass the mic off from time to time along this presentation just to give people on this panel with me the chance to speak. You can scan that QR code and see our King's Crowd rating, which, by the way, is 4.5 out of 5. It's a solid rating considering the company's current destination on where we're going. And you know, obviously with this kind of business, there are some challenges, but we are moving along with it. So why don't we take another quick gander at what we've got going on for the moment. So the ARCOI, the amended restated certificate of incorporation, the amendment status is that we're currently pending on all three of these pieces. John, do you mind talking a little bit about the investment and how we've gotten here?
A little more clarity on that you're looking for?
No, just the crowdfunding, how we went about this past year on how we've been doing the fundraising. If you don't mind just kind of weighing in with some clarity on how we've gone about the crowdfunding, WeFunder, Republic, any thoughts or anything to conclude on that before we move on from there?
Well, I think you hit where we've rolled through the multiple different crowdfunding opportunities. I think we've done quite well compared to what the crowdfunding sector has done. I don't know if we've published that out there, but if you look at King's Crowd, there was crowdfunding as a whole has been down for the past couple of months, but we've done pretty well in that sector or in that channel of raising capital. I think a lot of it, there's different theories on why that has been down, but I think HEVO has been successful against those headwinds. We have some, I don't know if we'll talk about what we're rolling into coming up in the next couple of months, or I'm not sure on that, Jeremy, so I'll reserve comments on that.
Yeah, so that's a really important piece. And one thing to note from the fundraising, there's been some offline related investments that have helped to support this. We're deeply grateful for those hundreds of people that have invested through the crowdfunding and through the offline investments to help us basically retain our average over the last 4 to 5 years. When we look at the amended restated certificate of incorporation, that is absolutely as part of our Series A2 ongoing status. We're working through a process with, I would state, our voting common stock shareholders and also with our folks that are Series A1 investors to get the ARCOI amendment passed, which has already been approved by the board, and that has been sent out as of June 22nd. So we're hoping to see that come through from most people getting that executed this week. We were hoping by today, but obviously people are already vacationing and traveling. So getting that done in a week is a little bit of a challenge. We had to rework it a little bit due to some of the details and the responses that we had gotten from our existing investor base and shareholders about what they thought on the previous ARCOI draft. So we went back, recirculated that to make sure that it was within NVCA standards or National VC Association standards. So everything within the ARCOI has been explained thoroughly in an email that was sent out this past week to our Series A1 investors and our common voting shareholders. And this obviously has to do with the Series A2. With the liquidation rights, again, it's following NVCA or National VC Association standards. And so that is a pending status still for our current Series A1 investors only. And then the board member voting status, we're just about to cross over the 50% threshold. We're right at the line right now. So please continue to vote in and help us out with getting all these passed and approved so we can get these filed with the state of Delaware and ensure that we have everything in place. Just to come back into our rounds of our investment for the A2, it's still the same price. Nothing has changed. So even with this ARCOI, you have to file these whenever you're doing a round. So we're going through that process, but it's our Series A2, still priced at $1.9991 per share. So effectively right about $2 per share. So nothing has changed with that. And certainly we think that we should be able to close this out sometime in the next 6 to 12 months, maybe earlier, depending on some of these VC and institutional conversations that we're involved with right now. So that could help us out to close it much faster. Hopefully by the end of this year would be ideal. But we also have to take into account, John already stated, there are some headwinds through this year, especially through crowdfunding, not to mention just general retail investor related matters and VC. If you're not tracking this, VCs have been deeply engaged in AI over the last several years, not a lot of funding going outside of AI. Something we've heard numbers like 80% of investment targeted capital is going to AI related ventures. So that doesn't leave a lot of meat on the table for anybody else. It is what it is. That's why we made the decision a little bit over a year ago, or right around a year ago, to move forward with the crowdfunding, because we had already been successful with that in the past, to weather through this period of time and wait for the next round of investors who are going to be excited about an infrastructure opportunity like HEVO at the VC and institutional level to come back in and give us some time and capital to be able to take care of some of these early projects that we will talk about here in just a minute.
Jeremy, can I say a couple of things?
All right, so,
those that aren't tracking the sectors, there's just been a lot of exciting news from large investments coming into the sectors, and they're starting to see it as an asset, as a asset class to be able to invest in, as far as infrastructure goes. For example, Waymo with Terawatt, that is building out the charging infrastructure for Waymo, just got $300 million in debt financing to be able to build out for autonomous vehicle fleets. Slate just made a huge announcement on this, right? $25,000 truck. I mean, they've exploded. I've seen numbers from 10,000 reservations in one day to over 180. So these are companies that we're talking with. Jeremy will probably shed more light on that. Uber just announced $100 million in capital infrastructure build out for autonomous vehicle fleets. So there's a lot of money just in the past couple of weeks and in past month that has been announced that's flowing into this. Orange EV, follow that one. They just got a big order for 600 autonomous vehicles at port. So there's a lot happening, and I think we're starting to see that, right? So we've had some headwinds, but now we're starting to see a lot of positive signals that are tangent to what we're doing.
That's true. The other thing to note is some of the challenges that we think that were caused by the conflicts in the Middle East, certainly by also retail investors holding money on the sidelines, likely related to the SpaceX IPO that happened about a month or so ago. So those things have sort of had a hand in this as well. And we are starting to see a pickup, but we are coming into the summer months, and there is always a little bit of a lull, especially between July through the start of September, where there's a bit of a lull that happens in investment activity because people are out on vacations and there's other things going on in life. So these are the ebbs and flows of normal investment periods of time and seasons. And so we expect for there to be a little bit of a lull over the summer, and then it'll pick back up in September, October timeframe, as we have typically seen in the past. All right, so we're going to go through a few things that are really important to the technology and also to how we're going about business. This isn't a full exhaustive list, but these are a few things to jump into. We're going to go through an IT review. We haven't done that, frankly, maybe ever. So I thought it was an important idea for us to show you where we stand with IT. Take a look at our product roadmap and our readiness status, what we have going on with these different projects and these customers that we're currently engaged with at the moment and where we think things are going. Also take a look at the technical attributes and automaker, or as better known, OEM specifications. There's quite a bit of information in there, things related to our prior UL SAE testing, things that we have coming up along the path. Information that's been coming from these automakers, and we've been synthesizing this into one full document that just gives a good outline of what is it that they're looking for and what we are providing to them that is unique, as you would call unique selling point or moat or whatever else it might be known as. Interoperability is really an important matter for the themes as we go on to further work with Polyphase. There's a lot of findings that we found along the path, but at the end of the day, we see Polyphase technology being a massive competitive advantage, especially with major German automakers that we're currently engaged with. And then our competitive advantages around size, weight, performance, and cost. And it won't go in that order exactly, so we'll just pace through this. But as a highlight, we're going to cover some good material here today. So at the moment, the company has 20 patent families that it has secured and the majority of this being ours, meaning HEVO derived, which is really important. There are 24 issued patents based on the current details that have come from our patent attorneys. This is pretty updated, so this is recent. We do know that also there are quite a bit of what we would state as pending applications. We did receive an award for another patent that we will announce pretty soon. And so we have 2 patent awards coming up, one this month, and then we think the next one will be next month. And they are pretty wide ranging and also deep as well. One of them covers over dynamic charging, which is the ability to drive and charge at the same time. We're waiting for the final award on that. We're not going to make any announcements and do any press releases on it until it is finalized, but it looks like it's been awarded. And so we'll hold off making that. And that's the one that's listed as number 18 as an example. But it's a very healthy portfolio, and it does cover everything that HEVO does offer and more. And it also has patents that are in the pipeline of where HEVO is going next, that being the polyphase technology, eventually with the dynamic roadway charging technology. So this is an opportunity to just showcase very high level all the different things that the company has either won already and some of these extra ones that are pending for the moment. All right, let's take a look at how we're going about this automaker engagement cycle and what the vehicle integration looks like and validation that we're doing right now in 26. At the high level, when we engage with an automaker, the automaker wants to know what's in it for them for wireless charging being added as an accessory or as a native system onto the vehicle. And the 2 driving points are pretty straightforward. Either they can sell more vehicles or it prevents loss of sales of vehicles. That's it. It's very clear, cut, dry that way. And then on top of that, with all the automakers having some challenges right now with selling their electric vehicle platforms due to cost and other related matters due to the technologies that they put on it, especially here in the United States, they are making sure that the demand is there before they go continuing along with those electric vehicle platforms and sales. However, in Europe and Asia, it's a completely different story. Vehicle sales are continuing to skyrocket. And with the fuel prices going up over the past several months, it has had a resurgence in the United States for electric vehicle sales, not only in the market for aftermarket or used vehicles, but also for new vehicles. So even though all the benefits for electric vehicles have gone away in the United States, which went away approximately last fall, we have seen this resurgence due to the high cost of fuel, which is interesting. That's one of those unintended consequences of conflicts. And it's frankly a lot of the reason why HEVO was started in the first place. It was founded on the idea in principle to create energy security in the United States and around the world. So to get to the point, there's 2 things that matter to automakers. Either sell more vehicles or prevent the loss of sale of vehicles. And when we're dealing with these kinds of fleets that we're dealing with at the moment and that we're working with, excuse me one second. What we're typically are engaged with are fleets that are on the larger side, that have leverage with these automakers, that need wireless charging because they have these really strange operations that they're not used to, which is plugging in vehicles and having people have to be around as charging attendants to plug in vehicles, which runs up costs. So our approach is we have an 11 kilowatt, what is known as circular coiled system. It's very plain. It's very low weighted and certainly on the cost side is cheaper than this polyphase technology. It's meant for OEM or automaker specific design and engineering that's intended to integrate with the existing vehicle underbody. So call it an accessory as both an aftermarket system and as a native system. It's very mature. We've got that technology in preparation for multiple automakers, but turns out that's also the technology that these fleets want as well. So the DHLs of the world, the Amazons of the world, these companies, definitively need wireless charging to be able to create the efficiencies in their fleet yards that helps them to get to a point of their return on investment and break even on these electric vehicles that they have either purchased and or leased. So this reference design that we have is really important for our automaker programs, and it's a mature design that can be tested with these fleets, and that's what we are moving into as we start to validate the technology with these fleets. Now, the fleets have a requirement, which is they don't want to void the warranty on their vehicle. So HEVO lives as a supplier between these two, both really challenging industries, but customers that have some equal merit of demand and requirements to put this equipment onto the vehicle. Why? Because at the end of the day, a fleet does not want to have warranties be voided. And at the end of the day, an automaker doesn't want to do something for no reason. And so we have a cross path here, which is great. The fleets help to create leverage with the automakers. And the fleets are reaching out to the automakers, that especially the ones that have the electric commercial vans, and helping us with those communications with those automakers to say, we want the wireless charging on it, make it happen. It's not a perfect, easy pathway, but it is a path, and it is having its moment right now. And so we are in a current status with multiple automakers and multiple fleets that are already using these electric vans for commercial deliveries, mostly last mile logistics, and they want wireless charging to streamline their fleet yard management, to eliminate the extra labor costs or having drivers have to plug it in, remember to plug it in, having a nightmare around this whole management matter around plug-in charging. Now, the 22 kilowatt phase technology, polyphase technology, that is really specifically focused around these automakers. And so these automakers that are looking at this are companies like BMW and Mercedes and Volkswagen, who are already licensees, some of them or even all of them, for the polyphase technology that we have also licensed as the only supplier for that technology at the moment out of Oak Ridge National Labs. And so as they start to advance their programming, especially for the consumer vehicle side, so we say retail vehicle side, especially for the consumer side, so any vehicle that's a sedan, SUV, et cetera, those are going to likely be vehicles that have the 22 kilowatt polyphase technology on it. Back in May, we went through a set of tests here in Texas, in Austin specifically, at the TDK facilities, with a 22 kilowatt polyphase technology that was supplied by Oak Ridge onto a vehicle from one of the major German automakers. And the success of that testing, which was, by the way, viewed live for demonstrations by several major automakers, specifically the German ones, live here in Texas, that came out with positive reviews that has led now to those automakers saying we are only going to focus on the polyphase technology. And so they're hyper-focused on this 22 kilowatt polyphase design that allows them to prepare for early 2030s rollout of that technology as they go into serial production as their early indication of their interest. So let's not say that's 100% guaranteed that's how it's going to go, but they have to have a supplier. And right now we're that supplier that is available to do that for them and design it for their needs. So HEVO has a unique advantage in this very specific space. And it's not just the German automakers, it's also the major Japanese automakers. So as we continue to move forward with our designs of this technology, we're effectively creating a universal design that works across somewhere in the range of 4 to 6 major automakers, mostly German and Japanese. All right. Last thing to note about polyphase is it allows us to have the opportunity to leverage our existing 50 kilowatt systems that we have already designed and tested to some early level degree with Oak Ridge National Labs. So this will give us a chance to leapfrog that technology into these design requirements for these automakers. we are starting to see a lot of rapid exploding and expanding commercial agreements around the autonomous vehicle marketplace, which is really exciting. So we do have an existing partnership with AutoLane. AutoLane specifically is doing curbside autonomous operations for retail customers, certainly supermarkets, these kinds of customers. They're using Tesla's vehicles. And so HEVO and AutoLane are working around a curbside wireless charging option where these vehicles, instead of having to be plugged in by somebody, can pull up, top off, and then continue to move on without having to have a person doing that. Because right now, they're having to have people stand around and wait for the charging for the vehicle to pull up to charge the vehicle. With Steer, we've already done some early programming with them, and that was on a Ford E-Transit electric van. We did demonstrate that technology for the leadership of DHL in Austin, Texas last fall. And we, as a result, are preparing a program for DHL and one of these automakers that have electric vans that is looking to step up and offer the opportunity for a pilot program without voiding the warranty that can lead to dozens, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of orders, even just for DHL alone. DHL already operates over 10,000 electric vans across the world. The majority of those vehicles are the Mercedes e-Sprinter. We do have a great relationship with Mercedes, by the way. And the second answer is that they do operate also with the Ford e-Transit, and we also have a great relationship with Ford. So there's options on the table that they are considering at the moment and how we're going to do this. And we're working directly with those automakers to get an opinion on which one of them is going to permit this program to move forward without voiding the warranty. So those are early conversations, but we will say targeted specifically to try to do this pilot program ASAP. The region that we would look to do this early pilot program with DHL, and that's in a statement of as if everything has gone correctly and we've gotten the approval from the automaker to do the pilot, et cetera, is likely to be in the New York, New Jersey area, but there's other options as well. Nonetheless, it represents a huge opportunity for the company where we could perhaps win a bid as an accessory program to provide our technology to their existing 10,000 plus vehicles that could be immediately turned into wireless charging vehicles. And not to mention that the fact that they are continuing to buy hundreds and even thousands of vehicles on a go-forward basis. Bring in Steer. Steer does this really remarkable thing, which is they have an autonomous technology that does the last part of the parking and the movement inside the fleet yard. It's a 5 mile per hour autonomous technology. And as a result, there are fleets like, as an example, DHL, Amazon, et cetera, that have high interest in something like this, where vehicles, once the vehicle has returned to the main gate at the fleet yard, the vehicle can pull in and move on its own. Now, we have demonstrated with Steer early designs of our wireless charging with their autonomous technology on a Ford E-Transit. And there would need to still be more work, but we think that we can take that technology, bundle it, and then have that be something that is representatively a total wireless and autonomous charging and parking operation for fleet yards. And do it with a price point that either is as a sell or as a subscription model. So there is some interest in both of those models, but doing it at a price point that customers would be willing to potentially purchase. But we are also hearing from a lot of fleets that they're interested in a pure subscription model on that. And so we are looking at both of those models together. With Beam, if you haven't heard of Beam, they are an electric vehicle charging technology company that has solar and storage built into a standalone unit that can be dropped into any single parking space as a normal parking structure. It provides anywhere from, depending on the solar activity in that location, provides anywhere from 80 to 120 miles of range per day. It could be a little bit less, it could be a little bit more, depending again on what the solar activity is in that region and seasonally. But as you can imagine, in high solar locations along the southern rim of the United States into the Middle East, and you get the point, those are really great areas for their technology. HEVO has been integrating our wireless charging system into the first Beam EV ARC system. We don't yet have anything to show you. We are in the midst of doing that integration. We do hope to have a demonstration video to show in the next month to 2 months, so sometime through the summer. We have customers that are waiting for this technology that have already started to show their indication of interest. And we believe that some of these early customers on the autonomous side could be some of the best customers to start off with. So as we start to move forward in these autonomous programs, there's an opportunity to utilize this standalone drop-and-play solar storage and wireless system that has readiness for autonomy, so that these vehicles that are autonomous can just come and charge on solar on their own. The systems from Beam can also be grid tied in, but the ideal type of applications are locations where it's easy for them to be dropped in, and then they're a standalone generator. There's other programs that are ongoing. At the moment, we're engaged with or involved with programs related to at least 5 automakers and at least 5 autonomous companies of some sort in nature of that. We are also engaged with well more than 2 last mile logistics fleet companies at this moment. So our cup is full, but we also are not standing idle. We are out there working and building more business and preparing the kinds of operational roadmaps for production scale up in preparation for the ideal outcome, that is HEVO works through these validation programs that we're currently involved with, that leads us to scaling up production in locations either in Asia or here in the United States, as I've already been on the road quite a bit to review those options and looking at how that might look in the next, say, 6 to 18, 24, 36 months. So we are engaged in that process. We have multiple contract manufacturers that we are engaged with, and we'll say that they are obviously trying to win our business. All right. Little time check here. I'm going to wrap this up here pretty soon. In case you're not tracking this, the company has both wireless hardware technology and software. And the software completes this really remarkable user experience, which is it's either for a human-driven application or for an autonomous application. And so to get to the point, it's as simple as parking, putting the vehicle in park, and walking away. That's how it works. There's really nothing more to it. The other thing is that we have a highly efficient wireless charging system. For several years now, we've been at the 93% efficiency plus. Now we're starting to see potentially even higher efficiencies as we move into new options on components that have improved their thermal management capabilities. And so what we are seeing is that we are competitive on the total package, whether it's the vehicle package, it's the ground assembly package, it's the software and user experience. We are highly competitive to plug-in charging and in most ways beat them, including on price. So, excuse me. The volume pricing that we see from this is on the vehicle side package, depending on the power level, whether it's overnight charging or just minutes of charging, it scales anywhere from $250 for our price to the automaker up to $750 for our price to the automaker. We have reviewed that pricing recently, and it still holds up. Secondly, for charging, whether it's overnight charging, that starts at around $1,200 for our ground assembly, or for high-speed charging that charges vehicles in minutes, that goes up to about $7,000 for that ground side, making us by far the best priced EV charging technology in the world at high power. Most systems that can charge DC fast charging, or we'll say anywhere from 150 kilowatts to 350 kilowatts worth of level of power, those systems are going to typically range no less than $50,000, but typically are over $100,000. So with a system that is priced in the $6,000 to $7,000 category for the same power level, we'll just say sub $10,000, that makes us very attractive. And it's worth noting that these DC fast chargers do not have an ROI. They're not targeted to have an ROI. Most of them get put in knowingly that there's never going to be a break even on those systems. Whereas with our technology, these companies can actually have a break even. And it's not just the fleets, and it's not just the consumer electric vehicle companies that are, or customers that are interested in that. It's also energy companies that are interested in that are deploying EV charging around the world. The other thing to note, this is a bidirectional system. So the technology can supply power back into your home or back into the building. We don't really market it as a vehicle to grid system, because once you get to the grid level of supplying power from the batteries and the vehicles back into the grid, there's a lot of extra regulation and regulatory hurdles that you got to get through to make that work. And it's on a per utility basis even. So it's a bit challenging. Here's a little bit of information around the polyphase. If you don't know what that is, it's a geometrical miracle. So it's effectively 6 coils that are overlaid in a way that create one coil that reduce the heating effects of having just one circular coil. And so you can almost think of it like there's one part of the coil that's charging for a second, and then there's another part of the coil that's charging for a second, and so it's oscillating. And as a matter of doing that, it keeps the thermal management of this really in tune to maybe not having to have any cooling requirements. Whereas if we had it just as a singular coil, it would definitely have to have cooling requirements, especially at above 11 kilowatts. So we can potentially see this going into 22, 50, 100, 100 plus kilowatts without having to have any thermal management. The other thing is that the packaging remains very tight. So we do not lose the packaging sizing as a result. The vehicle size package for this technology is just about the size of a small, medium pizza box. And on the grid side, it's about the size of a large pizza. So call it a small to medium pizza on the top that goes onto the vehicle, and a large pizza on the bottom. That's what you're looking at in terms of sizing. It doesn't really move in terms of sizing, whether you're at 22 kilowatts and doing overnight charging, or you're at hundreds of kilowatts and doing charging in the matter of minutes, which is, again, that kind of makes this a miraculous technology. Quick update on our competitiveness in this space. The thing to note is that Tesla is definitely in the game. They acquired one of our competitors, but not technically a real competitor. They were a competitor that was working on wireless charging for robots and warehouses a few years back, for a reported $76 million. They announced a little bit over a year ago, so about a year and a half ago, that they would have wireless charging at their event where they unveiled the Cybercab. They're still working on that technology. Here's the good news. No matter what Tesla does in this space, it has to be universal, and it has to work interoperably with the other wireless charging technologies that are in the space. They can't just create their own product line that doesn't work compatibly with everybody else. So that's a really nice feature about wireless charging, is that the expectation is that it is universal no matter where you are around the world, versus all these competitive plug-in charging connectors that you will find around the world as a result. Prusa is supplying the wireless charging systems for Porsche. And so Porsche announced that the Cayenne would have wireless charging as an accessory. It's a premium option. It's $8,000. And if you recall from our pricing, we're targeting something for the same level of capability with even more, because ours is bidirectional, at $1,500. So we see an opportunity there to be able to even win that business at some point. But right now, Bruce is a supplier for Porsche. There's a couple other companies out there. Electreon acquired one of our competitors, and really their focus has been on large buses and in-road charging, so vehicles can drive and charge at the same time. It's infrastructure laden, very heavy on the infrastructure side. It's not really our game right now. We do see the opportunity and the pathway to that, but we believe static and opportunistic charging, especially working with these fleets and working with these automakers and early consumer programs for overnight charging at home, is plenty of business as it is. But we do want to be on the leading edge also of technology. So we have been continuing to review options that we have available to us to be able to go into dynamic charging or in-road charging at some point. But right now, we don't see Electreon being a real competitor because they're well outside of the technology bandwidth of what we're operating in, which is predominantly these fleets and these automakers for consumer sales. Witricity is a name that has been known in wireless charging for some time. As far as we've been able to see, they have really scaled down and are now just predominantly focused on wireless charging for golf carts. So we live in a space where HEVO has a unique advantage on competitive pricing and being a universal technology that is designed for major scale up for automakers and also for fleets. Eventually, this is what we hope it gets to with some of these autonomous programs. And what we believe to be the case is that they don't need to go back to a fleet yard or central depot to charge. Doing that is really a mistake. There's so many opportunities to put wireless charging in urban landscapes, whether it's at curbside or private parking lots, garages, whatever it may be, that these vehicles can continue to be in high utilization cycles, because that's the whole point of these autonomous vehicles, is that they don't need to come offline. So Waymo, Zoox, these kinds of companies, their model is built around keeping these vehicles out and picking up passengers as much as possible. The ideal scenario is that they never turn and go back to a central depot that's outside the city limits to go charge and then get topped up there to drive then back into the city to go do its business, like we see happening across the United States for most of their operations right now. So here's a very unique opportunity for wireless charging to really become the legitimate technology for a specific industry all across the board, 100%. Wireless charging is desperately needed for these charging operations. And so the ideal pathway, again, is that these vehicles would stay topped up, and where they're going to be at, we'll say effectively the majority of the time is going to be in main city areas. There should be wireless charging that is buried underneath the asphalt at curbside or in garages where they can just pull in and charge without having any human intervention. As we start to turn the corner on wrapping this up, just a little bit of our plan of how we go forward and what we believe is the next 5 years of HEVO. Through this year, we'll continue with these early projects with these automakers, commercial fleets, and autonomous fleets to continue to validate our technology with them and prepare for early production commercial programs moving into 27. That's the target that we're working on. We believe that the company can get from low hundreds of thousands of revenue this year into high hundreds of thousands of revenue the following year in 27, or even into the early millions of revenue with the process that we're running right now in validating this technology with these customers, especially with the fleets. We start to see these automakers look to see wireless charging as either an accessory or a production native system in the late 20s, early 30s. So for the next few years, most of the work that we're going to be doing with automakers, minus trying to get them to approve our technology as an aftermarket accessory for these last mile logistic commercial electric van programs and these autonomous vehicle programs, predominantly will be in validating our technology for serial production programs that are slated for late 20, but now probably creeping into early 30s. And along that pathway, we continue to scale up the power level of the system, going from 11 and 22 kilowatt systems that are technically overnight charging into the 5,100, 250 kilowatt level systems over the next several years. That gets us into the same level of capability that you would experience from a plug-in charging technology from like a Tesla supercharger in terms of the speed and capability, eventually leading to this in-road charging technology opportunity where we could put our product into pavement at major thoroughfares and commuter routes, interstates and highway routes where people won't have to pull off and go charge somewhere. And that would save, as you can imagine, billions of dollars of excess time and energy and waste around the efficiency of travel, especially for supplier, trans, and major fleets that are traveling goods across the country. So we are continuing to raise our Series A2, and we certainly need your help. This is the QR code to our WeFunder. You can also, if you are looking to invest a larger investment, there is an opportunity to do that offline directly into the company and not have to do that through WeFunder, but we have been very thankful for the WeFunder investors. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and take some questions and we'll stop the share. Thank you for hearing through that presentation. Obviously, we had a lot to cover between the governance, the Q2 updates, where this company is going, and the preparations of things as we start to move forward. Give me a minute and see if
hey, Jeremy,
I know we got some Q&A. So if you,
I answered a few, but there's 3 out there that I'd like you to answer.
Okay. All right. So are any of the conversations A2 raised with names listed as evidence of liquidity in the AV space, e.g. Waymo, Terawatt? Appreciate names may still be tentative, but interested in nature of investor pipeline. We actually have a couple of strategic investors that are reviewing the deal right now, which is one of the reasons why we had to get this ARCOI amendment done. And the answer also being the liquidation preference be more in line with the NBCA due to the strategic investors. One of them is a company that's out of Saudi Arabia that we executed an agreement with in the past month and a half to 2 months. They're called FTT, or Fleet Tracking Technologies. And so they're reviewing it. We do have another group that's reviewing it that are really honestly looking to help the company raise capital around more crowdfunding, advertisements, and marketing. And so basically to beef up our advertising, which has a direct correlation to a return on advertising spend as it goes for investments. So thank you for that question. The answer is there are strategics out there. There are automakers that have certainly made their interest known for investing in the HEVO. We're still working through that, but that's going to take some time. Automakers do not move fast. All right. I saw on WeFunder that there was a post stating that HEVO was not compliant in filing one or more certificate related matters to the forms related for SEC. From limited research, it seemed like the post's concerns are valid. Jeremy appear to dismiss said concerns. Can you speak to the concerns regarding the possibly required Form C, AR, or if the concerns are unfounded? You cannot raise capital unless you file the Form C, guys. So let's just start there. You cannot do any form of crowdfunding without a CR and a Form C being filed. Now, there's always like some extra related matters as you're going through that process. We're working through that and allowing WeFunder to answer to that. It wasn't a dismissal, more of it doesn't make any sense because you cannot raise funds on anything that's crowdfunding without having filed a Form C. So they won't, SEC won't even allow you to do that. So we'll just say for now, that's been put to bed. We are doing some investigation, but it's really the WeFunder team just making sure everything looks good on this side. Hopefully that answers your question in full. Do you have any updated financial projections? We do, but obviously those, this is continuing to be a similar non-risk opportunity. So if you're interested in that and you are one of our investors that has the key holder status or as a major investor, please email us at invest@hevo.com. We'll happily work you through that process to get those financials. So if you're one of those limited but important key holder investors or major investors, we're happy to share that. Ultimately, I did give a little bit of what we think is the projections. We're still looking in the low 100,000 kind of mark for this year for what it's worth for our revenue. That's going to be the case because we're in the validating part of our programming with these projects, right? But also the case is that we do see some of these moving to a turn where they become real commercial programs that leads to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of investors as we go. This anonymous attendee, look, if you don't mind, just again, email us at investor@hevo.com. There's different thresholds for what is a major investor, and it depends on when you came into the deal. There's different lines of that at different places, whether you were in the seed round, Series A1 round, Series A2 round. So there's not exactly an easy answer there. It depends on what part of the round that you got in. Right. Okay. If there's any more things that anybody would like to ask, please let us know. We're happy to answer any questions offline as well. Again, invest@hevo.com will give us that capability to do so. We will have some more, because it's press releases coming up, and we certainly do a lot of podcasts and things. We're part of it. We're constantly being interviewed. It's not like we don't have this thing. So if anybody's interested in finding some of the details, you can look up HEVO on YouTube or LinkedIn. Follow us on X. Follow us on any of the programs that you're on for socials, because we are constantly posting important details there. Let me, I'm going to give another minute here or so for people to put in some questions. I do see somebody asking about our partnership work with Foxconn. The reality is that with major contract manufacturers, it takes time to get to something known as a manufacturing service agreement. So there'll be some time about how we may work on that. In the meantime, we have other also major contract manufacturers and mid-tier ones that we're continuing to be engaged with. We do see the opportunity with Foxconn being unique, but it's not Foxconn direct. It's with a group within Foxconn, which is Foxconn Interconnect Technologies, FIT, because they're specialized specifically for wireless charging in vehicles, but we're talking about wireless charging for phones. So they already have some of that. I've reviewed their facilities. I went out and took a look at their manufacturing facilities for those lines out in Vietnam a little bit over a month ago, just to see what they looked like. They also did a good job. They are a $200 billion a year organization with over 1 million people. So let's just not pretend that Foxconn couldn't manufacture. The second thing is that you also want to try to protect your IP, because they are such a large contract manufacturer. Technically, they're the largest one in the world. There's always concerns about what happens to IP and things of that nature. So we're wanting to make sure everything is buttoned up before you start really moving forward with a customer, or I should say a partner like that. And we're assessing other options as we go along as well. All right. Bobs, either one of you have anything that you want to fill in? Any gaps there? John, any gaps there that you want to fill in as well?
Nothing here, Jeremy. I think you covered it all. I mean, the reason that I'm so excited about this company is that consumers do not like cords, and we make cords go away. And we're going to get the pull from not only our OEM customers, we're going to get the pull from regular consumers, just such as you and I. And automakers do not like to lose a sale. My sense is without this feature functionality, they will lose sales. Might not be immediate, but it'll be in the midterm. So I think the demand is more robust than we're forecasting.
Thank you for that, Bob. Bob Skinner or John?
No, just second the thought. Lots of good questions came in during the meeting. Stay tuned. Lots of activity and excitement in the background. European Union just also is coming to terms and solidifying on union-wide safety um, rules for autonomous vehicles, and that's going to open that market up much wider as well. So we're in a good position.
I'll just
Okay.
add,
John, anything from you?
just the excitement around the autonomous vehicles. I mean, Jeremy, you just mentioned something about slowing down for the summer, but that maybe kind of the capital raise side of it. It's always tough during the summer for all various reasons. But from a business perspective, we're really starting to see, it's exponential growth within the sector. So we just need to have the resources to be able to capitalize on that. As you said, our cup is full. It could be overflowing. We do have constrained resources to be able to go after as much as everybody in the audience would like to give us ideas. There's a lot of them. And you mentioned dynamic. If you're not, an infrastructure geek, you see dynamic, you think in-road charging. While that's trillions of miles and dollars and all of that, but I don't know if we touched on, or it might be too early, about the hybrid situation where you have static and dynamic at the same time. Think of a rolling queue example, the airport waiting queue for all the autonomous vehicles, where they're moving, but they're constantly like moving forward, but they're getting that charge within a defined lane versus the dynamic on the road where they're picking it up. So I think there's an opportunity in between what you showed on the product roadmap for this, being able to tap into that using that technology, where I guess it would be a static dynamic hybrid situation.
Hey, Jeremy, one last
Yeah.
thought, and thank you, John. I mean, that was a good point. One last thought, and for the people on this call, what we discuss every day is how to channel every available dollar to engineering and to customer pursuits, because the customers are asking for us to work with them, and we can't name them all, but they are marquee customers that we're dealing with. They're asking us to work with them, and our fight every day is how to make sure that there's not a dollar wasted, and that every dollar goes to engineering and customer pursuits. So I'll just stop there.
Yeah, really great points, guys. Thanks a lot for that. I would just want to state it is a challenge right now with the amounts of customers that we have and the resources that we're managing. And it's just a matter of the state of investments right now in the form of VC capital, where they have been putting dollars at. But we do see these kinds of VCs and institutional starting to peek their head back over the wall and take a look at some of these new opportunities for new spaces to be either developed or to really move the needle on the older ones that are not working properly. And so we do see investors starting to come back around a bit on the actual institutional VC side, but it's going to take some time. We need to be honest with ourselves. We have already had enough contracts and enough customers to prove out that this is an interesting technology that people want. So there's not more customer related matters that we can do. We just can't take any more on. So we will continue to crowdfund and do our work there, but the reality is it is not capable for us to do all the things that we actually could do, because there's actually more. So we can be very selective in what we're choosing to do. All right. Well, look, everybody, thank you for your time today. In our view, we've had a really great year since the last time we've done this. The company has come, when we look a year in the past, the company had a couple of automaker programs that it was engaged in. And loosely, we were in discussions with these fleets. Autonomous vehicle companies hadn't even really shown up in a way that made it meaningful for us. When we look at the commercial, to go back to Bob Reminar's point, when we look at where we're putting our dollars, it's going into the engineering programs that are specifically for these customers that we are engaged with. And now we're engaged with well over a dozen plus customers in direct programs and or programming and preparations for the next state of our technology to come for them. So stay tuned to these things. We'll obviously keep you updated. If you're not on the newsletter, just all you have to do is reach out to us, invest@hevo.com, and we'll take care of you there. Otherwise, until next year, but we will see you again at the end of Q3. Take care, everybody.